So before GrowthX, the first clinic that we had was just number one. We didn't have any other offices. And when that happened, I jumped in. We had a lot of peaks and valleys, but we had 30 visits a week is what we first started with when I jumped in there, and I would go to do physician marketing, sit in there for an hour, painful, might get to talk to somebody, might not. At times that helped just showing my face, but it took a lot of time and effort for sometimes little reward. If the physician was on vacation or they opened their own practice or, someone else kind of schmoozed them for the day, the referral, could change pretty quickly. Once we developed or implemented GrowthX and started workshops, we went up to 120 visits a week, then even went higher to 250 visits a week when we added another portal. And with that being said, peaks and valleys kind of went away. It stabilized. Once that stabilized, obviously allowed us to begin growth in other areas, and went up to 5 clinics. From there, went and purchased an acquisition with another group, and now we're at 23 clinics. So in that primary location, when we first started GrowthX, or beforehand, we had about 80% physician referrals, which gave us those peaks and valleys. And now with GrowthX, we're able to totally flip-flop that, and we have about 80% direct access patients in that location. And it is now continuing to follow through in the other locations, the other 8 that we have as well. Basically, the biggest change that occurred is once the continuity was there in the direct access referrals, really we didn't have to spend that amount of time going out and marketing to these physicians. And so because of that, I think it allowed Brian to go and grow the business a lot more as well. And then obviously having a stable business with consistent revenue, again, helps with being able to dedicate more money elsewhere. To be able to grow other businesses the same. So at that time, we were doing workshops, but they were not Facebook advertised. In some ways, I guess they were more captured audience workshops within the facility. Yeah, so we tried mailers, we tried, just doing stuff in the newspaper and different things like that, newsletters to past patients. And so the workshops were maybe not as well attended then, but still helpful and still much more worth my while than, an hour or 2 or whatever in a doctor's office trying to coordinate that. So, right, yeah, no more taking physicians' donuts and food and coffee and whatever else. So after we've solidified, the 5 clinics that we had in making sure that they were successful, Ryan had been working billing-wise with another company just on a few things. They saw the success that we were having. So in 2016, we acquired the additional locations to make it up to 23. When we implemented that was a little bit more of a challenge just because those PT practices were already established. So we had to change that mindset of the folks. They had actually their own marketing person who would, set up a booth at a conference or different things like that. And, he had been doing that for years, had a ton of physician relationships. They purchased Penguin tickets, Steelers tickets, did all of that good stuff to take some of these physicians out and, again, kind of schmooze them. But again, lots of peaks and valleys for them still. So it took about a year after that acquisition for everybody to drink the Kool-Aid as to what we were doing. But the biggest thing that they were seeing is the success that we were having in other offices. And initially, we just kind of reached out to folks to see what their interest level is in doing the workshops. So right now, we have 7 locations that are doing the workshops. Actually, I apologize. We have 9 locations doing the workshops, and we are adding 2 additional coming up in April. And so how I've worked the training with that is I go in when a workshop is scheduled, and I'm kind of doing everything from the start. in terms of, some of the calls, PT calls the day before, and I go in and I actually do the first workshop in the facility with the therapist. They're just kind of supervising. The second one, they actually will do the PT calls with me. They're doing it and I'm kind of coaching them. They are doing the workshop, and the absolute most important part is that last 10 minutes of the closing of the workshop. So, I'm jumping in as need be if I need to give feedback to make sure that we're doing the conversions. Third workshop, the PT kind of does on their own, and I'm just kind of there for support. Fourth and on, they kind of do it, themselves. One thing that really helped with it as well, actually last week we just hired somebody to centralize all the calls. Shoulders are down, lot less work for me, and in 1 week she's already upsold 11 patients. So I think that'll be a really good way to kind of stabilize some of the calls, because we had those going in a lot of different directions, a lot of different people trying them. And anytime there's an acquisition, I think, and people are merging together, there's a little loss of staff, a little bit of turnover. It tended to be the PTs who had been in practice for many years and maybe just couldn't quite grasp the concept of the direct access, and not having to go back and rely on the physician for, a protocol, or, making sure that they have these plans of care and scripts that have 54 things on them rather than just eval and treat. So yeah, as that transition though, things really work out for the better. So when we get new staff in there, it's a lot easier to transition them to all of the new stuff that we're doing, because you're preemptively telling them what it is that, is expected of them upon the hire too. So expectations set beforehand make things a lot easier. Our success coach is Jordana, and in some of this, she's actually been able to jump on a call and kind of do a second interview of sorts, just to kind of give the go-ahead that that person's got the energy and the excitement for the position. And that's exactly what we did for the person who we've centralized the calls with as well. And then Jackie's onboarding, once somebody is actually, on board with us and really showing them every step from start to finish is really, really helpful. We didn't always have that at first. A lot of that kind of fell on, me and or Ryan. So, nice to kind of wash your hands of it and again, focus elsewhere to make sure that we can make sure somewhere else is successful. Breakthrough's our marketing company. We really don't put a lot of marketing dollars elsewhere anymore, because it is that successful for us. So, but yeah, it's really important for us to get that feedback from you guys, because you see all of these different facilities that are using it and the type of energy it requires. But it's really important to us because we know that what you guys are doing is making us successful. So your input is just as important. So. I mean, we incorporate some of the stuff that you do on a day-to-day basis, not even just the external marketing, but the internal marketing, to make sure that, it's a great customer experience, right? I think the biggest flaw in healthcare is that they've gotten away from the customer experience. And now that we're able to focus on that with you guys and your input, that allows us to stand above a lot of the other PT practices that don't do that for folks. They set them in a room, do your exercises, walk away, and sometimes, unfortunately, that's the experience that people have. So, so we're able to provide a much better product because of what you guys are offering. So the networking that's provided because of all the private practice PTs that you have at events like this, on the Facebook group pages, etc. I think that we're able to share our wins and vice versa, because what works for one clinic isn't always as black and white for maybe another. So just continuing to try different things and new things, so that networking is really important to see what works good for everybody and how that might affect your practice as well as ours. I try to give my feedback on things that I've tried that has been or have been beneficial as well. we've seen the growth in all 9 that we're doing GrowthX with. And if there is one that is maybe not performing quite as well, our goal is really to get is to get our therapists to see 75 visits per week based upon some staffing ratios that we keep track of. So for example, if somebody is kind of below that, I am going back to the workshop that they're doing to just kind of amplify or give some feedback, constructive criticism. Maybe they forgot to, let people know what direct access is, or maybe they forgot to, really engage people in the conversation rather than just going through a whole talk for 30 minutes. Once giving that feedback, modifying what it is that they can do to fix that. Typically we've seen the numbers improve after that in terms of conversions. And then the centralization of the calls overall, even just in a week, has made a pretty big difference in the amount of people we're confirming. The centralization of calls is basically we have one person with one dedicated phone number who is doing all of the calls. So when the boom emails are coming in, she's calling within that first 5 to 10 minutes. Whereas when I was doing them or attempting to, I may have a patient I'm treating. I don't always get to that call within the first 5 to 10 minutes. And maybe it takes me a half an hour or an hour to get to that call. So this person is getting those calls, doing the call within the first 5 to 10 minutes, engaging people more, which is at this point increasing our amount of confirmations that we've had. When somebody sees the ad on Facebook, they click, they register, enter their information. We receive a email directly afterwards with their name and phone number and what workshop they've signed up for. So we have somebody that's dedicated to take that email and basically call them within the first 5 to 10 minutes of their of their registration. That way, she's able to engage and confirm that they're attending and/or offer the potential for them to come in to get an evaluation sooner than the actual scheduled workshop. So. GrowthX has given us the ability to ensure that all of our therapists that are using this product are doing the same processes. So they are, getting these testimonials from patients. We are doing the same workshops to market, to reach out to the customer out in the community. They do not have to dedicate their time to, trying to hunt down physicians and/or physician referrals. GrowthX has given us the ability to not only have this huge network of people to talk with in private practice, PTs all over the states, but also people within GrowthX and the company of Breakthrough allows us to bounce ideas off of each other to figure out what is the best implementation for each location, since on occasion that can be just a little bit different here and there. So always innovating, always figuring out new ideas that would be beneficial for the clinic to ensure that the success is just as high as the first one. The Breakthrough team is very, very open to feedback on what your patients need. So we are able to, when we first started with GrowthX, we just had the option of the lower back funnel. There were no other options. And what happened is we were running it enough that it would kind of fatigue in its ad. And so in talking with the Breakthrough team, they were, open to that idea, knowing that we needed to add something else to break that up. The rotator cuff funnel came along. We've also done the balance funnel. And as the balance funnel maybe didn't do as well for a particular location, they were very open to allow us to kind of swap that out for a different body part based upon the feedback that we've been getting from patients as well and what they need.